Hey, gang, October has arrived. Parks Casino, what a great place to go in the fall. The leaves change. You take a nice drive. Right here in Pennsylvania, very accessible from Interstate 95 and the Pennsylvania Turnpike. Michael, why would I want to go to Parks Casino? How about the action? How about the excitement? How about the entertainment? I always talk about the Bet Parks app and my fun in wagering all through, not only football season, but now Major League Baseball postseason. But how about that which is going on in the Excite Center? So many great acts that are upcoming. The Spinners were just at Parks Casino. Comedian Michael Blaustein is going to be there on Friday. Howie Mandel, Friday, November 17. Air Supply, Saturday, November 18. Aaron Lewis, Michael Carbonaro, Martina McBride. Like, great diversity. Whatever you're looking for, comedy, music, what type of music, they've got it all. Parks Casino, it's the ultimate destination for action, excitement, entertainment, plus free parking, valet parking, and electric vehicle charging stations for all guests. For all things Parks Casino, visit Parks, P-A-R-X, casino.com. Parks Casino and Sportsbook, this is how you win. Got to be 21. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Time now for headlines from the Tuesday edition of the Smerconish.com daily newsletter. I remember we did a segment on the program not long ago, and I said, if you had any person on the planet that you could just wave a magic wand and he or she would be the president of the United States, don't worry about whether they were born here, who would you select? And always there's somebody who says, well, what about Oprah? What about Oprah? Well, it turns out, according to our friend McKay Coppins, frequent guest, great guest, he's always had a direct line on Mitt Romney.
So true.
You know, he's always been like the Romney whisperer.
Yes.
In the same way that I say Selena Zito has been like a Trump whisperer. He's had great access, and Mitt Romney wanted to write a book about his own life, wanted it to be objective, and so he turned to McKay Coppins and entrusted him to write what I guess is a memoir. There have been a number of snippets that have come out about the book so far, but this is kind of a biggie.
I think so.
And the idea is that Oprah called Mitt Romney, actually reached, I guess, Ann Romney.
Right, that's the story.
And floated the idea, for sure, of Mitt running for president. This was in 2020. So it's Trump and it's Biden who are, the candidates. She wanted Mitt Romney. Now, the part of this that I guess is in a little dispute is whether she was going to be the running mate.
Right. So the way the book is written is Mitt Romney said that was the pitch, that it was going to be the two of them as a unity ticket. And she's saying, no, that's not true. That kind of a big thing to mess up. You know what I mean? And I think of Mitt Romney, like him or don't like him for his politics, whatever you think about him, I think of him as an honest broker. Yeah. So it's kind of like you wouldn't make that up per se. Could it have been confused?
Maybe it was in Ann's phone message. It was like Oprah called and wants you to run with her, and somehow it became,
kind of
Oprah called and wants you to run.
No. By the way, the other way around. It's additive, not subtractive.
Who is on the top of that ticket?
Oh, is it Winfrey Romney or Romney Winfrey?
Didn't you see the thumbnail for this conversation? Because I floated it both ways.
So which did you think?
Oh, I think it's Romney at the top and Oprah as the vice presidential pick. But we could have an interesting conversation as to whether that should be
interesting,
the ordering of it.
Right.
People always wonder about, Oprah and having an interest. And then, of course, Michelle Obama gets thrown into the mix. I think
thrown in, right.
And I maintain that she just laughs every time that she hears it.
Like, you must be kidding me.
Right. Ms. Winfrey floated the unusual ticket in a phone call she placed to Mr. Romney's wife, Ann Romney, in November of 2019. According to an excerpt from the book, it's called Romney, A Reckoning, that was shared with the New York Times. Liz Johnson, an aide to Mr. Romney, declined to comment on Monday. A spokesperson for Ms. Winfrey said in a statement that she had urged Romney to run, but not with her. Quote, in November of 2019, Ms. Winfrey called Senator Romney to encourage him to run on an independent ticket. She was not calling to be part of the ticket and was never considering running herself. Mr. Coppin's book, based on hours of interviews with Mr. Romney, as well as emails, texts, and journals that the senator had been saving to potentially write a memoir. Realizing that he could not be objective about himself, Mr. Romney said that he chose to have a journalist write about him instead.
Okay, I need to hear what the Romneys say about this, because I don't know. I mean, if they come out and say that maybe they made a mistake or they misremembered or something like that.
Maybe Oprah never floated herself, but she, gave the vibe that she was available if Mitt Romney wanted her to be the
I would
running
be
mate.
Very curious as to what that exactly sounded like. That's all.
Yeah. Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know.
But interesting. Very interesting.
Interested to read the book. So the next debate, I think we knew this, but now it's formal. The next debate for the Republican candidates is going to be in Florida, and NBC will be the media partner. Actually, will be one of the media partners. No word on who from NBC will serve as a moderator. I would think that it would be Kristen Welker.
I would think so.
And she did a great job, in my view, in that role in the last cycle. November 8th, the Adrian Arsht Center for the Performing Arts in downtown Miami. Now, this is interesting. It's NBC, and it's Salem Radio Network, and it's the Republican Jewish Coalition, and it's Rumble. Reliable sources had an analysis as to, who are these other partners, the Salem Radio Network and Rumble? They say that they're very partisan brokers, which, by the way, it's the Republican primary. Who do you think holds sway over the Republican electorate? I've said this for years. It's talking heads in conservative media, both on cable and on radio, so it kind of makes the case. From reliable sources, in 2023, this is with regard to Salem, it is now defined, Salem Broadcasting, by a stable of MAGA media personalities such as Charlie Kirk, Dinesh D'Souza, Sebastian Gorka, and Jenna Ellis, right-wing fixtures who have espoused incendiary views, pushed dangerous conspiracy theories, says reliable sources, and told outright lies about the 2020 election. Well, what's an example? Okay, in recent months, Kirk, for instance, called for President Joe Biden, whom he declared a tyrant, to actually be put in prison and or given the death penalty for crimes against Americas. And as recently as last week, he baselessly suggested that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had allowed Hamas terrorists to attack the Jewish state and murder innocent Israelis in a bid to solidify his power. Rumble, says reliable sources, is no better. The video sharing website has become home to the far right, offering unsavory figures who have been banned from mainstream platforms such as YouTube, a space to continue to poison the public information well. For example, they say Andrew Tate, the far-right misogynistic alpha male influencer charged with human trafficking and rape in Romania, has privately boasted that he has a $9 million deal with Rumble, as reliable sources reported this year. What is the point? The point is it will be very interesting to see who the actual moderators are, given the partners. And, of course, the elephant in the room is, will Donald Trump participate in that debate? The likelihood is that he will not.
No, why? He's made every indication that he's not going to.
If he's at 60% in the vote, what does he have to gain? I always thought that this is now going to be the third debate. I always thought that by the time of the third debate that he would show up because there would be pressure brought to bear on him. But the ratings decline from number 1 to number 2. I think they'll go down for number 3.
I agree.
Who knows what will be going on in Israel at the time of November 8 when this comes around, but I can't see, as of today, Trump participating in that debate. By the way, I want to give you more from Smerconish.com, the Tuesday edition of the newsletter, but I want to make sure that before I give you the poll results from yesterday, I mention this. Every day, I know there's one podcast around here. It comes out on Thursdays, and it is called TC After Dark.
It's not that there's one podcast. That just happened to be the first podcast.
Yeah, that's true.
But and
you were the trailblazer.
Right, exactly.
There was a time when I was invited to be your guest on TC After Dark.
Oh, no. We have an upcoming date. You know that, right? Don't forget.
I loved when I was your guest and we did Old School.
Old School was the best. We drove around Doylestown, PA, visited your old schools, elementary, what you call junior high school, which is the middle school and high school, and you told stories. Yeah. And what is your line?
And by the way,
some of them
are true.
There you go.
By the way, not only did we do it once, we did it twice.
Oh, God bless.
On back-to-back days.
Oh, gosh.
But it was great.
It was so
fun. It was just like the two of us in my car.
Yes.
And TC recording, and I pulled up to all 3 schools.
What about the one where we smoked cigars in your backyard?
That was another one.
Every time
There've
I
been
go,
some great-
every time I go to a cigar store now, and I
Right.
see those little cigarellos or whatever
Yeah.
they are that you had me smoking, and I was like choking, and you were like, and what did you say? You're like, you're embarrassing me.
True.
As I'm choking on your cigar.
Someday I'll come back if I'm invited to TC After
You
Dark.
have been invited.
Yeah.
Stop lying.
Well, anyway, I too have some podcasts. Okay, one is my book club podcast. That's kind of my passion project.
It is.
Because I enjoy interviewing contemporary authors. And then in addition, every day from the radio show, TC and I and Dan will say, well, what should we release as a podcast
right.
today? It's usually a pretty straightforward, we agree, we drop it. But you know that kind of the hallmark of the program are the poll questions of the day. And they're much more difficult to determine than you would think. If you think it's easy to come up with a poll question every day, then I challenge you to go to the feature that we have at the website and suggest one.
People have been trying.
Yeah.
It's difficult because
It
you
is tough.
especially want it to be nuanced. You
Right.
don't want to editorialize through the question itself. You want it to say something, mean something, get people juices flowing. Yeah.
And I don't like it when it's lopsided.
I know.
TC's right. So the point is this. I've added a new feature to my existing daily podcast, only about 5 minutes long, and it's me talking only about that day's podcast. By the way, I should tell you, I experimented with this over the span of the last 2 or so weeks, and some of you said, oh my God, he's reduced the podcast to just 5 minutes. No, I've added a benefit here. It's an additional 5 minutes. Take a look at wherever you get your podcasts. You'll see what I'm talking about. Anyway, I hope you'll enjoy that new feature of me speaking about each day's podcast. Now, results from yesterday, 22,808 votes cast. Should the U.S. accept refugees from Gaza? Ron DeSantis must be thrilled because the no votes were 52.84%. That got closer as the day
did.
wore on.
Yeah.
I think initially, here's my theory. I think initially people saw the question and voted on it. And then people who voted later realized, oh, wait a minute, I'm on the same side as Ron DeSantis in this. And it changed some of their perspectives. I didn't put his name in the poll because I didn't want to poison the well. You shouldn't be voting for or against that question because anybody else has taken a public view, including me. Today's poll question, I love this one. I really love this one. Does the attack on Israel suddenly make Joe Biden's age and experience more an asset than liability in the 2024 election? You know all of the polling data. Neil Newhouse was a guest of mine here on the program 3 weeks ago. It was his company. He's a Republican pollster. It was his company that did a survey for NBC News. I'm doing this from memory, but I could easily quote for you or pull up on my computer 5 or 10 different surveys that all say the same thing. 3/4 of Americans believe that Joe Biden is too old for a second term. 80 today, 86 by the time that he would finish. I always say that age looks different on different people. It's not that he's 80. It's like, how's he wearing it? And according to 3/4 of Americans, he's not wearing it well.
Correct.
Okay.
So that is
But
what.
now,
Right.
But now, tonight, you know, he's going to Israel.
Right.
He's going to meet not only with Prime Minister Netanyahu, but also with other Middle Eastern leaders. He knows them all. He knows the turf.
Institutional knowledge.
He's been there countless times. Yeah. Suddenly is his senior status an asset, not a liability? Are the dynamics of this changing, particularly where last Wednesday, Donald Trump, was complimentary toward Hezbollah,
right,
said they're very smart and was very critical of Netanyahu. Is this one of those intangibles that I've been speaking of where, just a few weeks ago I said, there are people whose names we don't know and events that we could never forecast that are about to turn the 2024 election, then turn it again and again.
Well, and interestingly, the other thing that you said is that the one thing that Biden had against him was something he could not control, which was his age.
I did.
And now what you're suggesting perhaps is there is something that could make shine a different light on that.
Right.
Not controlling his age, but making that be a benefit, not a liability, is it's fascinating.
When I took a look at the voting, there were roughly 2/3 saying one thing. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I want you to go to Smerconish.com and cast a ballot. Does the attack on Israel suddenly make Joe Biden's age and experience more of an asset than liability in the 2024 election? You've got to be careful. I have a hot mic in front of me for 15 hours a week on radio, a hot mic in front of me for an hour on CNN. I'm involved in a lot of social media platforms, and I have people who assist me, not so much in putting things out that I didn't say myself, but just assist me in managing the social media platforms. And I've been very careful with our team to say, guys, on the subject of Hamas attacking Israel, be very careful. I want to make sure that nothing I say is taken out of context. For example, TC, I said to PJ from Creative Outfit, who does a great job on our video today, by way of illustration, I said, I can imagine myself being on radio and saying, well, there are some people who believe that Israel actually instigated the attack by Hamas because of the way that Israel has handled Gaza and the Golan Heights and the West Bank over the span of the last 50 years. And if someone were to take that tape and say,
only where you started Israel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I could easily make you say that.
Then I'd have a lot of explaining to do.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to say something for which trouble should follow, at least allow it to be
real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my mindset with the people around me, because I realize the sensitivities and the nuance of these issues that we now confront.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is not me giving a defense to what I'm about to describe, but rather I just want to say that I see people getting in trouble each and every day, some deservedly so,
right,
and some I'm not sure.
Right.
So the Hadids.
Yes.
Who are the Hadids?
So Gigi and Bella Hadid are the daughters of Yolanda. What is Yolanda's last name? Anyway, father is Mohammed Hadid. He's Palestinian. And they are supermodels, very famous. Yolanda, the mom, was on Real Housewives of X, Y, or Z. And Yolanda and Gigi Hadid are glorious, wonderful supermodels, very famous, unbelievable social media presence. And they're also Palestinian.
By the way, did I ever tell you a story about the two of them walking into a restaurant where my mother was having dinner, and my mother looked over at them and had no idea who they were and said, like, they're beautiful. They should be models.
She was right. Good job, Mom. Well, and interestingly, Yolanda has a farm close to us.
Right.
And they post from there, and it's beautiful, a bucolic, gorgeous area, and that's their escape. Anyway, everyone was waiting for one of the Hadids to say
what are they going to
something.
say? What are they going to say? Just like I said about Roger Waters yesterday.
Because they've been vocal in the past.
Right.
So yesterday, Gigi Hadid posted a meme to her Instagram, and this is what it said. There is nothing Jewish about the Israeli government's treatment of Palestinians. Condemning the Israeli government is not anti-Semitic, and supporting Palestinians is not supporting Hamas.
So I'm going to focus only on the second part of that.
Okay.
Condemning the Israeli government is not anti-Semitic, and supporting Palestinians is not supporting Hamas. I don't believe that supporting Palestinians is supporting Hamas. I think that there's truth in what that last part references. And I remember saying before the events of 10/7, and I've said it repeatedly here, that there's more debate about Israeli politics in Israel than there is in the United States. In the United States, we've been, up until recent times, very monolithic in our support of Israel and unwillingness to be critical of the Israeli government.
So the state of Israel disagrees with you and retweeted or reposted her post and said, Gigi Hadid, have you been sleeping the past week? Or are you just fine turning a blind eye to Jewish babies being butchered in their homes? Your silence has been very clear about where you stand. We see you. Alicia
Keys, I think my headline at Smerconish.com today was Alicia off-key. I think that's what did I say? Alicia off-key,
right, with
paragliding IG post.
Yeah.
In her case, first of all, if you're deleting, there's a problem.
Right.
And she
Always.
deleted.
Right.
Saying that she'd been this was completely unrelated, but she posed in an outfit that reminded some of a Palestinian, or I should be more specific, sympathetic toward Hamas. But the real trouble was, she said, tell me your truth. No, what would you do if you weren't afraid of anything? Tell me your truth. I've had my eyes on paragliding. Why in the hell, other than a reference to the events of 10/7, would she have said that?
Well, according to TMZ,
has to be
many
true.
people have pointed out, she seems to be talking literally about wanting to paraglide, which, ready for this, makes sense considering where she lives near San Diego. She and her husband, Swizz Beats, that's her husband, Swizz Beats, are actually right near a well-known paragliding spot. So according to TMZ,
I don't know.
And others have mentioned a controversial decision of hers in 2013 to perform in Israel, despite publicity asking her not to. TMZ saying she meant no harm.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I'm just putting it out there.
All right.
It does seem like a strange, like in the like there
hell
are
of a
no
coincidence. Hell of a coincidence. Right. By the way, today is Tuesday. Jack Oman has a great cartoon in the Smerconish.com newsletter today, exclusive for our subscribers. Subscribe. It's worthy and it's free. Another cartoonist at the British at a British news outlet lost his gig. His name is Steve Bell. It's because of his depiction of Benjamin Netanyahu. The criticism is that he was using an anti-Semitic trope. He said he was inspired by an old cartoon of U.S. President Lyndon Johnson during the Vietnam War. I wasn't aware of the Johnson cartoon, but I did go and take a look at it. But again, question of judgment, bad time. A better celebrity moment. I know I'm limited on time. I have to say this just to leave on a happier note.
Good.
A better celebrity moment.
Was you?
No, I'm giving you credit for this.
Oh.
I have watched, and I had no interest other than the strength of your recommendation on Netflix, Beckham.
Oh.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Right.
I'm like, what am I going to learn? Why would I want to watch this? It's 4 parts. I'm racing through them.
Good for you.
And really, really enjoying it.
Right.
It's just so great. And that's all I'll say. Do you want to say anything about it?
No, I think that's fantastic.
Mental health crisis. Thank you to the senators who formed a bipartisan movement. We deal with this at Smerconish.com. Today, Senators Alex Padilla and Tom Tillis, they don't have much in common. Opposite sides of the country. They sit on opposite sides of the aisle. Outside their mutual love of dogs, what have they bonded over? The need to do something about the mental health crisis in the United States. And finally, there's a funny sandwich story in Smerconish.com about Citibank winning a case after sacking a banker over a 2-sandwich lunch claim. Who ate the second sandwich?
And the second pasta and the second coffee.
It's a really interesting story. And if you need some levity in your world, and I think we all do at this moment, get to the 20th story in the newsletter today. Okay, thank you. See ya.